expeditions to Mount Ararat. In the first place, I wonder why they're going to Mount Ararat, because the Bible doesn't say that the ark came to rest on Mount Ararat. It says it came to rest on the mountains of Ararat. And Ararat was a nation at that time that is now occupied by what is known as Armenia. They might be looking in the wrong place for their boat. Maybe he'll want to talk about that. I don't know. But you know, I have a suggestion for them. Of course, they're free to approach their subject the way that they want to. But I think their time would be spent more practically if they would just go to Walmart, Kmart, and get all those tools that I talked about. Go to the lumber yard and get their pre-cut lumber and build a boat to those specifications and put it in the ocean off the coast of Florida and wait for a hurricane like Andrew to pick up a lot of steam, and then just sail that sucker right into it, loaded down with giraffes and elephants, and then have a look at the cargo after it rides out. Something like that. If the thing is even afloat after then.
10 minutes.
How in the world are they going to make a boat like that? Since there was not anyone able to do that at the height of the shipbuilding industry. This is a factor that he has to explain to you. Well, let's pass on from that to something else that I would like for him to explain. Of course, he gave you the creationist line about, well, Noah didn't take aboard representatives of every species. He took kinds. He took kinds. He took a canine kind, and from that pair of canines, a male and a female, we now have dogs and jackals and wolves and foxes and many other specific varieties or species. And he took one deer kind, and from that we now have we have a moose, and we have a caribou, and we have a white-tailed deer. We have all of the 37 different species that have developed over a period of just 5,000 years from that one kind that was taken aboard the ark. There are over 100 specific species of bovids. In bovids you'll find cattle, goats, sheep, and so on, so you'll know what I'm talking about. Well, he wants us to believe that Noah just took 7 pairs of them. Because most of the bovids are clean, I'm sure that he will agree with that. And that all of these 100 species have developed in a period of just 5,000 years. My friends, he ridicules the evolutionists, but there isn't an evolutionist in the world who would stand before you and say that change that dramatic could take place in such a short period of time.
Right.
They just will not do it. And yet he wants us to believe that Noah just took a few animals aboard the ark, and everything that we see in the world today, all of the hundreds of thousands of species developed. Let him explain to us how that happened. Have 8 minutes, right? Also, let's take a creationist figure. Henry Morris, a name that I'm sure that he's familiar with, has figured it out. Noah had a population of only 50,000 animals aboard the ark. Well, 50,000 would be a lot. He had to have an elephant kind, I assume. And he had to have a giraffe kind, I assume. By the way, when you come up here, Dr. Holbein, please explain to us how those giraffes and how those elephants were secured aboard the ark in all of the stress of that violent turmoil that you described without being dashed to pieces so that they were bloody pulps after the storm was over. He told you correctly that according to the Genesis story that they were aboard the ark for a little more than a year and 10 days, I believe, to be exact, or thereabouts. Can you imagine the stench that would have developed from 50,000 animals in a space like that? Now, there's no way for me to say this without just being indiscreet, but did you know that an elephant will produce 40 tons of manure in a year's time? Did you know that a sheep will produce 700 pounds of manure in a year's time? Well, no problem, they just scooped it overboard. Oh, sure they did. Where did they find the time to do that while they were trying to take care of all of the animals and make sure that they were fed and watered? There are serious problems with this story, and he simply is not willing to admit it. And by the way, did you know that many of the animals had to have specialized diets? I'd like for him to explain how that problem was taken care of. The koala, which is native to Australia, of course he probably believed that it lived somewhere else back at that time. But the koala native to Australia will eat only eucalyptus leaves. And zoologists have discovered that some of them are so adapted to the eucalyptus grove that they were born in and grew up in that if you remove them from that grove to another eucalyptus grove, their digestive tract just cannot adapt to the change. Did Noah take along, I almost said Moses, did Noah take along a eucalyptus tree to feed the koala? Giant pandas can eat only bamboo shoots. Did Noah have a greenhouse on the ark that grew bamboo shoots for the pandas? If so, where did it get the light? Because there was only a 1 cubic window in the ark. And let's get back. I forgot to say this, but it's very important. David Balsiger, who was the producer of the movie about Noah's Ark that he mentioned, he is a creationist, and he says that there were only 800 tons of manure produced during the year's voyage. Of course, he didn't bother to explain how he arrived at that figure, but 800 tons, that's a lot of you-know-what. And have you ever stopped to think of the problem that would cause for the crew? The disease that it would cause? Do you know also that methane is a primary byproduct of manure? Did you know that methane is highly explosive? Have you ever stopped to think that the first time that Noah or a member of his family